Awesome. All right. Thanks for everybody for sticking around. So as you can see, this panel is to really dive deeper into EdTech in Africa, speaking to the entrepreneurs and companies that are doing the ambitious, really hard work. So my name's Mohamed. I work with Acumen Fund, and I'll go through and introduce everybody, and then we'll sort of jump in right into the questions. So first person here is Isaac. Isaac is a co-founder and CEO of Zeraki, a Nairobi-based EdTech startup that provides parents, teachers, and students with innovative technology to make learning more effective, engaging, and productive. Their solution is used by 30% of Kenyan high school students, 45% of high school parents, and nearly 50% of school teachers. Next is Dimeji. He's the co-founder and CEO of Edves, an EdTech company based in Nigeria that's providing digital infrastructure for K-12 African schools. They won the best prize at C-STAR's World Summit in 2018 and have gone through 2 global accelerators, are now scaling their SaaS product to over 1,000 schools in Nigeria, Ghana, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Zimbabwe. Next, we have Diana. Diana founded Yielding Accomplished African Women. The organization is on a mission to build the largest community and online academy of African women in STEM and place hundreds of young women into building the careers that they desire. Diana and her organization have already trained over nearly 100 young women on their way to reach the goal of 30,000 women impacted by 2030. And last but not least, Alexandra is the Director of Innovation of Rising Academies, one of the fastest growing quality-focused education companies in Africa. Rising Academies serves over 50,000 students across 160 different schools in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Ghana. And I have the privilege of saying I've done some level of due diligence on 3 of the 4 companies, so I know them quite well, and they're all doing awesome, awesome work. So, first question. Despite the title of the panel, Africa is a region that is most resource rich in the world, but despite the abundance of natural capital, we've seen examples of innovative companies coming up with innovative solutions. So for example, you take something like M-Pesa in Safaricom in East Africa, they did the early work of creating mobile money and fintech globally. So for each of the panelists, I would love for you guys to share one element of your product or service or business model that you're most excited about and what necessitated this resilient innovation in your business models. Isaac, you want to go first?
Oh, yeah, sure. So we have like two main sides of our project. So we have a digital learning side, and then we have a school management side. I'll talk about the school management side. When we launched it, we thought about having it as web-based, built for the computers. We took it to the schools, and they didn't quite get it until one of the school deans recommended that we build the school management platform for the phone. That was like a very big jump for us. I mean, we could think of how when it comes to consuming digital learning, you can use your phone. But when you thought about enterprise management systems, thinking about building it for the phone wasn't something that we'd already gotten into. So we built a prototype. The idea was, let's first build the web, and then the phone version will be just like for consuming the data. And we go to the school, and the dean is like, but where's the data entry? And I remember the question we asked ourselves in the office, why would anyone want to enter data on the phone? That was about 5 years ago. And it turns out like a lot of people would prefer to enter data on the phone. So we built like a mobile-first experience. In any typical high school in Kenya, 100% of the teachers will have a smartphone, but there will be just about 2 or 3 computers. So if you build something for the phone, then you have access to everybody. And then the phone is also very intuitive. When you walk to the school principal's office, data is no longer something that they need the dean to go do in their office. It's something that they can consume on their phone. So even from a marketing perspective, it comes really fast. So if there were more computers in schools, we definitely wouldn't have gone with a mobile-first approach.
Thanks. Dimeji,
thank you, Abdul. Thank you, everyone. My name is Dimeji, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Edves, like you've said. For Edves, I think what is more fascinating is about the fact that we were able to early understood that we have imported a lot of curriculum from Western world into Africa. So typically, I'm sure Isaac will know this, that if you go from one school to the other, you see a school having an hybrid of British curriculum plus American curriculum to deliver lessons. And also you go to another school, Finnish curriculum plus Nigerian curriculum. And we've been able to figure out that over number of research we've done that a number of students might not respond properly to some certain curriculum, and some will be able to get learning better in British curriculum, and some will be able to get learning better in American curriculum, which actually make the mix to make sense in some cases. But talking about digitizing this process, so we saw things from the angle of actually building a digital infrastructure to actually digitize this, but yet in a way that is multi-curricular in nature. And that's actually the most fascinating thing about what we've done. So easily schools that are actually running different curriculum can actually exist on a platform. They're reporting entire journey of students from student enrollment all the way to graduation for K-12 schools from Nigeria to different other countries. These are now possible because we are seeing them from the angle of actually building a digital infrastructure. And that is actually what is more fascinating about what we have done. So we've done this on web, we've done it on mobile, and then it's over 1,200 schools using this for now.
That's exciting. Sounds like you've sort of, customization has been a core piece of the product that you've developed. Diana, next for you. Question, go ahead.
Absolutely. And so for Black women, it's typically the issues of guidance and access. And so as someone who's building for a Black woman, being a Black woman, I knew that we wanted to tackle this in a way that we made it easy, so easy for Black women to be successful. That's our goal. Our goal is to build a platform, but hopefully end it, because there is equity in the workforce, specifically in tech and finance. And so on our platform, we have built a matching system that allows women to get referred to opportunities that are most relevant to them and get referred to the recruiters and the events that those recruiters are doing on our platform. So we've made a holistic approach to ensure that if you want to be a software engineer at Google, you know Google is coming at this date, you know the opportunities you should apply for at Google based off of your profile, and then you know who exactly at Google you should target. And then in addition to the guidance, right, now that we've given you access, we need to make sure that you can actually succeed. Will Google accept you and take you into the company? And so to do that, we've created something called learning pathways, where we've both gamified and we've made a system where it's kind of like a daily checklist to make sure that you know the way to success, whether that's just starting your GitHub account or whether that is doing certain projects, utilizing certain free courses on Coursera and Udemy. We've put it all together for you so that the stress and the anxiety of being a Black woman in a field where you don't see yourself goes away, hopefully.
That's awesome. There's a report that the World Bank came out with 2 years ago that said if you had $1 and you wanted to invest it towards education to create the most impact, #1 on the list is giving people information about how to make better purchasing decisions. So spot on. Alexandra, to you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. So Rising Academies, at the moment, we are working on a chatbot tool that incorporates engaging audio to explain questions that students may be having trouble with. And it was an interesting journey for how we got here. And we sort of have to go back to the beginning of Rising's history to understand where we are now. So we started getting ready to open our first school in Sierra Leone in 2014, and the Ebola crisis hits. So we immediately had to change plans and pivot, and we ended up working with teachers to run small group lessons within individual homes, making sure we were following all of the public health guidelines. So we had that experience of, shock to the system and then being able to respond as part of our organizational DNA. So then fast forward to COVID, we're now working with 95 schools in Liberia and over 30 schools in Sierra Leone, and schools are closing again. And we knew that we would have to react quickly We weren't sort of waiting to see what would happen. We sprung into action. And because 80% of our students are in rural areas where there is no connectivity, online learning was like not an option to consider. And we knew the governments in both countries were seriously looking at radio as a potential intervention. So we immediately started adapting curriculum content that we use in our schools to create high quality scripts that could be recorded to be multi-character engaging radio lessons. We began recording that content, we shared it with our government partners, and it became part of the national broadcast across the entire country as part of the COVID response. And we started hearing from other organizations like ours that run schools in places where online learning is not an option, saying, oh, we hear you're doing radio, what are you doing? And we were like, well, we have these scripts, people wanted to see them, they liked them, so we ended up open sourcing all of our radio scripts. They're available, you can download them, adapt them, translate them. They ended up being used by 35 different organizations across 12 countries as part of COVID response. And we're just really proud of the community that came together around that work. We also, as part of this, now have over 1,000 hours of high-quality audio content. What are we going to do with all this audio content? So we've been, leveraging this asset that we now have to think about how are we delivering audio lessons in places that are supplemental to our core academic programs. So looking at IVR systems where students are getting a phone call, they can listen to a 20-minute lesson, answer some questions, and we can see what that data looks like on the back end. We're also, as I said, we're now working on this chatbot tool where students are getting practice problems, and when they get stuck, we can automatically send them a clip of audio that's a teacher explaining, other students being able to give responses. So trying to replicate some of what might happen in a classroom from anywhere on any type of connected mobile device. So you never quite know how you're going to end up where you end up, but our journey has been really informative. And I would say, as we think about ed tech in Africa, low tech is also tech. And thinking about not just jumping to online first has been really important for us as we think about how to meet our students and teachers and families where they are. So excited for the journey to continue.
Thanks for that. And I know when COVID hit, there were a lot of surveys that governments were doing, and there's one that sticks in my mind, which is they asked parents, do you know what distance learning is? And I think it was 80% said yes, and they said, can you access it? And less than 20% answered yes. So to your point of meeting students and parents where they are and leveraging things like radio, television that have existing reach and access is great. The one thing I'll say over the last couple of years, I've had increasingly more conversations with folks that are interested in African EdTech and folks like Julia who've been tooting their horn for many, many years. And when I sort of look forward, and it's a question to each of the panelists, one, I would ask what excites you most about the future of African EdTech? And related to that, in line with the theme of the panel, what are the hurdles that you think will be overcome in the near term, driven by the resilient innovation that will then help unlock that next phase of African EdTech that you're quite excited about? And we'll start with you, Isaac.
Yeah, I think one of the exciting things about working in EdTech in Africa is the kind of challenges that you're solving are quite foundational. Here's what I mean. The kids are not learning because the teachers are not trained well, either because they were trained on the wrong curriculum or there isn't continuous teacher development. So if you are thinking of solving the problem of, let's say, good education outcomes for the kid, you literally have to walk several steps back. So there is a sense by which every educational tool that you're building is solving a problem that delivers or directly responds to a gap that has a very big impact on, let's say, the education outcome. I would say, for instance, it's great to have, let's say, gamified learning, but that presumes that there's already some amount of learning that someone is able to access, and you want to make that learning more exciting. But the children or the students for whom we're building products for may not even have that teacher in class, or the teacher is not competent in that curriculum. So the kind of then problems we end up solving are, how do we make the teachers not just effective, but how do we make them competent? And then how do we make them effective? How do we increase the amount of time that they spend on instruction? And so to then track back to how that then influences, for instance, the products that we're trying to build. When we started building our digital learning piece, as a trained engineer, there is the temptation to develop the best content that you can develop. So make it, best animation or most interactive. But when you step back, and this was back in 2015, the World Bank had done a study, the service delivery indicators for Kenya, and they said that classroom absenteeism rate for teachers, 50%, I think 47%, teacher competence rate, 33%. That means like the teacher in class would score 90, only 33% of, let's say, grade 5 English teachers would score 90% in a grade 5 exam. And so we thought, if let's say half the kids, or let's say up to 80% of the kids will either not have a teacher or an effective teacher, then we're not looking for the best content, the most interactive content. We're just looking for something that is good enough. And that good enough content is able to then move the needle from, let's say, 0 to 50. Elsewhere, good enough content may not be able to create such a big difference. So from that fulfillment perspective, I'll say, I can think of many examples like that, but I'll say it's something that's exciting from an entrepreneur perspective to feel that you're doing something that actually moves the needle.
Thanks. Martin, go next.
Okay, so thank you. I'd like to address this from two angles. First of all, I'd like to talk about the fact that the challenges in Africa has actually given us an opportunity. I can remember when we started, even globally, only about 2% of education is digitized globally, and about 95% of schools in Nigeria, as at that time, still use pen and paper, to do so many things. And a number of schools when we started that with advanced, they were using Microsoft Excel, all around. And a couple of people were like, no, you're building a software, you want to put it on the internet, and we only have 2G network, and, but we actually built it on the internet. And we were so foolish that time that we bet on the future that we don't even know that it's going to come. The infrastructure, the internet, that we didn't even know when it was going to happen, we kept on building. But so what really happened to us then was that we discovered that schools were actually opening up, to accept technology. They understood the angle in which we are looking at the situation to say, if the teachers spend 5 to 6 hours of traditional operations, pen and paper, when are they going to have time to actually engage the students? And our own journey was so clear that we know definitely that even where the education is actually the best in the world, the teachers are still the one that actually get the job done. So our focus was to actually build a tool that the teachers will use, but the internet, the infrastructure, they were not there. But even this time we're talking about, flights were landing in Nigeria, we were making phone calls, and we were importing goods. So many things happening in developed world were actually happening in Africa. So why can't we just focus on actually building things in a particular way that we actually scale? And we have the likes of Global International School. One of our top clients in Lagos is here that joined us from Lagos. She believes so much in what we were doing that time to say, you know what, the internet is not there, but let us even get to use the offline model and online model, and let's see how the bulk SMS, the email thing, then uploading and synchronize of online thing can actually get us working. And we kept on building. And another angle I like to look at it is the aspect of capital. We had little access to capital, and that got us to focus more on early paying customers that actually needed little traction, that wants to prepare grade books, look at the performance of students, learning outcomes, and then push a button, and then the parents at home can receive SMS of assessment on the phone. We were focusing on that, and we're getting the value to the parents, to the teachers, to the school directors and district officers, and then the students also. And the future is now looking like, okay, now that we've been able to bootstrap, raise capital later, grants came, and then now we're now seeing more deal coming to Africa now. It's now giving us a form of cost leadership in a way that the prudency we have built over the years, solving the problem in a very, very minute way, little way, with little cost, now giving us opportunity to now use money that's coming to actually scale the product across different places. And also for us, we're able to also quickly get a definition of market fit, because we didn't actually have any cost. So all we were just doing was just to actually run on customers' subscription. So the future is looking more like having more capital to actually scale this product out, because we've been able to build a product that is actually competing with global players in this space, because I can remember a number of global players actually came behind us during the COVID lockdown. Edves actually was #1 in Nigeria, talking about the software adoption during the COVID lockdown. And we have now done this with little capital. So the future is looking bright, because at the end of the day, what we've been able to build, scaling it out with more capital, is now possible. Because even talking about the employee ratio, revenue ratio head, everything is looking good. So it's done for us to see how we can do more of that, expanding across Africa, and also doing that in the global space in the next few months.
There's something that Dimeji has said there, as I identify with and just struck me. When you talk about building a cloud-based system, when all you have is access to 2G, you'll imagine that you shouldn't even do that. And I've actually had an experience trying to demo our solution when all that was available in the school was like a 2G network. And at the back of my mind, I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. And the teacher helpfully suggests, well, there is that Mugumo tree where we go do our stuff. And well, we go to the Mugumo tree, it doesn't work. And it's like, no, we can go to the nearby shopping center. And 6 kilometers away, you try do the demo. And you come back to the school and you're waiting for the teacher to tell the principal, no, this does not work for us. Instead they say this works for us and we want to take it. And we always think about this constraint leading people to run away from technology. But the pain that people are going through actually drives them towards technology, and they're willing to jump hoops to get access to this. So, yeah, I mean, just something that you mentioned, I'm like, yeah, we see that people want to use technology, they're not running away from it.
Can maybe, before we go, I'm curious if either of you can expand on the point. How do you convey the value of your product to, in most cases, African parents, the purchaser? How do you convey the value when, the stat I said earlier, they know what distance learning is, they know what EdTech is, they've heard the term, but they've never experienced it. How do you convey that value to parents? And anybody in the panel can handle it, but I'm just curious about how you convey value to this foreign concept or a product that somebody has never seen before, and you're promising that this is going to improve the quality of education, and we know how much parents across the continent care about education.
Yes, so for us, we work with teachers to do the work, because I don't know if any of us, if you're familiar with this, that you have a child and then you tell your child to say, this is how to take the step A and B, and you say, oh, my teacher told me that it is actually like this. So the teachers, if they say, oh, I have homework to do, the teacher said I should submit the homework, then the parent will be like, okay, since the teacher asking you to do it, then we'll pay attention. So we walk through the teachers to the student to get the parent to be familiar with it. And also, a number of times we go to parent-teacher association to show them the value of using the technology to actually track learning outcome. And for the fee-paying schools also, parents, a couple of schools in Nigeria, as at the time we started, when you want to enroll your kids in the fee-paying schools, you will have to go to school to get a physical form, and then they ask you to fill the form, then go to bank to make school fee payments, and then bring the confirmation of payment with the form back to school to come and submit the form. And these are parents that they also have a job to do. And because of this, some will get the form and they never go back to the school. And some, even in the midst of doing this, some accountant will mix up some receipt together to say, oh, this parent has paid this. So we've been able to build the online process of actually enrolling their kids and paying. And if you look at the fintech space in Nigeria, payment is actually a lot more better now that with USSD, bank-to-bank transfer, and all these things are really, really possible. And then that's on its own has saved time for parents. And when they pay school fees, then at the end of the academic cycle, they want to see what is the learning outcome, what's the evidence of learning. And the evidence of learning are done weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, so parents can actually have access to this. And the ones that are not even going online to check, when they sit at home, the email will come, the bulk SMS will come. And you know, the way people read SMS in Africa, I don't know if you have any SMS message in Africa, you open your SMS even faster than the way you open your WhatsApp, because there's something we call alert, alert from the bank. So people open SMS faster than any other thing. So we push the SMS also. When the parents get the value, then they want to have more. Yeah.
I just got an SMS last night that a landlord took out a deposit, cash my check for my rent. So yes, SMSs and prompts all the time.
Exactly.
Diana, back to the previous question. What about the future of EdTech excites you? And keeping in line with sort of the theme of the panel, what are hurdles that you think that will be overcome through resilient innovation that will sort of help get African EdTech to that next level?
Absolutely. What excites me is EdTech companies being built by Africans. That excites me a lot because I believe that a lot of times, even in the startup space, people think they have to help Africa. And it's a very donor relationship that people feel even for-profit companies, which is hilarious to me. And running a nonprofit, that's fine for me, but when you come up to for-profit companies and you treat them like it's a grant and it's a donor relationship, I think that already inputs a lot of bias into how you think the product is going to perform and how much support you're going to give that founder. And so I love a lot of these groups like Harambee that are coming together to really build for Africa by Africa. I love that. Hurdles, I think capital. Capital is a hurdle that obviously all of us have discussed, but I believe that in the past recent years, we've seen that Africa and our continent and our founders really have something special. And so now that funding is coming, I think it's going to allow that resilience that we always had to be able to scale up quickly and be able to impact more people and at a pace that a lot of these US companies or UK companies always had access to that a lot of African founders didn't.
I was going to say this on the previous panel, but I didn't. It was the question around what advice do you give to EdTech companies globally trying to come into Africa. I was going to say don't, jokingly. But, and the reason I say that is, you look at the last 50 to 60 years of the development sector, there were tons of 50, 60, $80 million development projects where the anchor of that project was the EdTech product from a different market. And if you just simply go back and say how many of those products are still being used, it's close to zero, I've looked. So to your point, yeah. Alexandra, same question to you in terms of what you're excited about the future of EdTech and what hurdles do you think will be overcome by resilient innovation to get us there?
Yeah, I think what Isaac was saying around teachers really resonated with me as well. Teacher effectiveness is one of the big constraints in the global learning crisis that we see where 50% of students are leaving primary school without foundational reading and math skills, and that access to literacy, both numeracy, literacy, is fundamental to opportunities going forward. So unlocking the capacity of teachers, if you asked me what superheroes have I met in my life, they're teachers. In schools that have extremely challenging constraints around just basic accessibility, the resources at the school level, the amount of support and training teachers have had, but magic is still happening in classrooms there, and with a little bit of support, and I think this idea of good enough content makes a ton of sense. It's something that we use in our own schools. How are we providing support to teachers in a way that unlocks their potential, to unlock the potential of the children that they serve? Like, they're a key constituency for us. And we've done, back to audio again, we recorded some audio for teachers around pedagogy and around content-specific subject knowledge. And we've done some experiments with sending audio sort of professional development lessons to teachers over their phones. And in a study we did with support from the EdTech Hub, we saw statistically significant differences between teachers who had access to that audio and didn't, in terms of both their content knowledge and this is my favorite outcome, their own self-belief in their effectiveness as teachers. And if you believe that you can, then you can. And so changing people's mindsets about what's possible and what their role is as a teacher, I think, when you're in an environment where the challenges are so huge, it's easy to think, I'll cover the content and what happens, happens. Like, I can't be responsible for solving everything. But if you start to empower people to think you really do have the solution in front of you, then you can see amazing things start to happen. And we've had some really exciting work coming out recently where we're providing better curriculum options for remediation for students who are behind. Because if you're teaching in a classroom where the grade level abilities span 6 years, like, you're sort of set up to fail as a teacher. And if you don't have a good solution that can be implemented at the school-wide level about what to do about these problems, then you're kind of on your own. And we don't want teachers to feel that they're on their own, that the system is designed in a way that they can be successful and they're seen as an important part of the solution. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm glad to hear. I'm also inspired just hearing all of my co-panelists on all the exciting work that's going on. There's a lot of great stuff out there.
For sure, and sort of picking up on that thread, maybe as a final question to all the panelists, I may be a little bit biased, but I think the folks on this panel, the EdTech entrepreneurs that are in this room, the work that you guys are doing now is going to have profound impact on the quality of education, not just on the continent, but globally. With that thread, I'm curious about what you think that African EdTech can offer to the world, whether it's product, whether it's the minds and the talent. So what do you guys have African EdTech has to offer to the globe, and how can the audience, those listening, tap into that offering?
We're currently offering a lot to the globe because Africa is part of the globe. Yeah. And by the end of the century, half of the children in the world will be in Africa. So it is important that we do things urgently to scale some of the solutions that we have built. For us, we so much believe in the teachers handling their delivery of lessons, giving them the capacity to do so. And also, we believe that different students in different classrooms respond to learning using different pedagogy, different curriculum. No one curriculum in the world can teach or raise the children of the world. So what we have seen in Africa, when schools have been able to create hybrid curriculum, that is key to what we want to launch outside of the continent. And that is going to happen in the next few days,
The world's biggest EdTech company in India is heavily moving towards that, so I agree with you. Yeah.
So, but with a different story in Africa now, this time around.
I'm with you.
Yeah, definitely. So that's exactly what is important, because the kids in Florida, the kids in Manchester, the kids in Lisbon, the kids in Lagos, Nairobi, Hong Kong, different kids respond to different teaching method differently. And we are building technology to power these different teaching method and reporting system also in a customized way that can actually respond to what the teachers see in the life of the student that the student should become at the end of the day. But we are taking the back, and we are making sure that the technology is powering this in an infrastructure approach.
Totally agree. Some could say it's still archaic that the education systems globally, depending on what year you're born, you take the same curriculum in education for 18 years. But to your point, sort of that individuality. Isaac, you want to go next?
Yeah, I think I'll pick up from one of the comments you made earlier in the earlier session, where you say, oh, there's very few people who can pay for EdTech solutions. So if you're actually thinking about, and second, it's a continent, 50 different countries. So if you're talking about 1 million people in Kenya and 1 million in Tanzania, that's not 2 million people, that's 2 different markets. And so thinking about business models, I think we have to think about scale in a very different way. And if you can think of how to scale across the continent, I think the rest of the world is structured in a similar way. So in one of the earlier panels today, listening to the entrepreneurs from India, and there might be an assumption from outside in that India is one contiguous country of 1.4 billion people. No, it's actually like lots of different states with different language and something like that. So if the kind of models then that we have to think about to expand across Africa can literally be applied in Europe, India, Latin America, where you have small different markets. And yeah, I mean, I won't go into sort of like some of those ways in which we're thinking about scale, but it's just to think about in other markets. Let's say if you're in the US, you build one product that is sold across the US continent. But in Africa, we have to think about, okay, how do I make the product development cost so low that when I go to the next market, I can literally either reuse bits of what I did in one market, or the cost is so low that I can literally do everything afresh in the different country. It's a different approach to scale, but once you fine-tune it, it's literally applicable across different continents.
Alexandra, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I would say accessibility and equity. I think because the constraints, particularly around cost, are so extreme, we really have to push our thinking about how do you make it work in any context for anyone. And I mean, we're sitting here in the United States. We know we have digital divides, huge achievement gap issues here. We have not solved equity and accessibility yet. So we're going to be looking to Africa and the entrepreneurs there who are helping to figure it out, and the teachers in our schools and the products that are developed. Hopefully we can make that work for everyone.
Awesome. Diana, what about you?
Yeah, plus one. That was really my answer around accessibility and equity, and also seeing the diverse perspectives and ingenuity as an asset, right? I think Black women specifically being not only will the largest youth population be from Africa, but that means the largest female youth population in the world, in a world where we are so invested, or saying we are invested in women's development, are going to be Black women. What are we doing about those perspectives? What are we doing about that ingenuity and that thought that as an African woman, you can bring to the table? And so I'm really excited for specifically our organization and all the organizations developing Black women, because I believe that we have so many stories of our African mothers and their ingenuity and their way to make nothing out of anything out of nothing, basically. And to see that in places of high stature with a lot of influence, I can't wait to see the impact that is going to be made, the products that are going to be built, the innovations that are going to be established, and the communities that are going to receive a ripple effect of impact just because a Black woman was there.
Powerful close. We've got 50 seconds. Anybody has a question that maybe you want to ask? Any questions? If not, I'm just going to say...
We've said it all.
Yeah. I just, again, want to thank you and the work that you all are doing, the other African EdTech entrepreneurs in the room. It is the early days. It's the tough work. But generations from now, people will look back and the seeds that you guys are planting right now are going to be quite impactful and powerful. So thank you.